Hi, it's me, Simon Martin.
In 2003, I was an independent consultant specializing in consolidation systems using Essbase. Then one day I was asked to assist a large UK PLC select a new consolidation system to replace their 25-year-old mainframe system. It was an offer I couldn't refuse. So after observing several vendor presentations and asking some very challenging questions, it seemed to me like HFM was the obvious choice. And I argued so strongly in favor of HFM that they ended up offering me the job of building their new consolidation system in HFM. The old mainframe system had produced reports on concertina-style computer paper, and a clear requirement of the new system was that it could export data to Excel. Things were going reasonably well until we had the first report building training with the consolidation team. Initially, the consolidation team were excited at the thought of being able to finally get their reports in Excel. But this optimism quickly disappeared when they realized how much effort was involved in writing a cell-based formula with 13 parameters for every data cell. The older members of the consolidation team were not very IT literate, and the younger analysts were concerned because of the volume of cell formulas they would have to write to do their analysis. By the end of the training, the consolidation team were not too happy and were concerned they had selected the wrong product. A lot of the anger was directed at me because I had recommended HFM so strongly. So I asked them to summarize the issues they had with the Excel reporting in HFM. I was asked to explain why I had recommended the product so strongly, and all I could do in order to save my job was to offer to build all the Excel reports that the users needed. It didn't take me long to realize the workload I had taken on, and being an inherently lazy person, I decided to find a way of reducing my workload. As an Essbase consultant, I had built a tool to distribute Essbase reports. I realized if I could adapt my old Essbase tool to make it build the HFM retrieve formula, then I could automate a lot of the manual work. And that Smart View functionality is still available in the latest version of MerlinXL. Let's take a look at that. We'll start by looking at how MerlinXL can add functionality to the existing Smart View reports. Here we have a typical Smart View report with the point of view set out in the top left-hand corner of the worksheet. And we can hide the rows and columns to display just the report. And we can see that the Smart View formula is linked to the hidden cells in the rows and the column. If we connect this worksheet to Merlin, first we select the HFM application, enter the normal HFM username and password, and select OK. Once connected, we can use the MerlinXL ribbon to change the point of view of the report. When the report point of view is changed, the data is automatically refreshed. In order to assist with analysis, MerlinXL makes the Smart View formula dynamic. Double-clicking on a Smart View formula cell will drill down, inserting the child members into the report. And double-clicking again will insert the next level down. And each time MerlinXL creates the appropriate Smart View formula. The mouse right-click also adds other functionality. For example, here we can see the point of view of the selected cell. And this function allows us to drill down on the entity dimension, inserting the child members of the currently selected entity. So using the right-click button, we can choose which dimension we want to drill down on. Double-clicking now drills down on the entity dimension. And once we've finished with our analysis, we double-click on the first cell and the report returns to its original state. So MerlinXL allows a user to analyze any Smart View data cell in a report across any dimension and to change the point of view of the report without having to modify any Smart View formula ought to know the member labels of the point of view they want to change to. The first version of the report wizard that added dynamic drill-down functionality to existing SmartView reports was released in 2004. But I was still having to build most of the reports, so the following year I added more functionality that would build the SmartView formula for this. So we'll look now at how MerlinXL can build the SmartView formula for you. We'll start with a blank worksheet, and in the Merlin ribbon we select the Connect button. We connect the sheet to the MerlinXL HFM application. The first thing we do is to enter some column headers. Here I've entered some members from the View, Scenario and Year dimensions. And in column A I've entered the account labels. And in the top left of the worksheet I'll add some keywords to determine where to place the descriptions. Then to create the SmartView formula we select the Data Type button and choose the SmartView option. And the SmartView formula is added to every data cell. If we zoom in on the formula we can see that it references cells and special ranges that link the formula to the MerlinXL ribbon. We can add a little formatting to the report. Linking the SmartView formula to the MerlinXL ribbon means we can use it to change the background point of view of the report. If we select the Entity Dimension button, we can choose a new member from the Entity Dimension. As you can see, the current background point of view is always displayed in the ribbon. Or having to update any of the SmartView formula. Another feature of the MerlinXL ribbon is the Design Mode button, which will automatically hide the row and column headers to make the report look more presentable. We still have the standard MerlinXL functionality of double-click to drill down, but with this type of report where MerlinXL has built the SmartView, the whole row is inserted when you double-click. So double-clicking will drill down on the dimension, and the right-click option gives other functionality, such as the ability to see the point of view of the selected cell, or the ability to drill down across another dimension. Using this option we can drill down on the entity dimension to get the children of the currently selected entity. So now we have a breakdown of the selected row by entity. Now consider the scenario where we're asked to find out all the business units in custom 4 dimension that roll up to the revenue in Europe. If we use the MerlinXL right-click option and choose to expand the base members of the custom 4 dimension of the selected cell, we will get a new report with just the base members of the custom 4 dimension with data for the selected point of view. And that's just one example of how MerlinXL can add functionality to your existing SmartView reports.
With users able to now build your reports using the report wizard, my workload was reduced.
We love the fact that the reports are in Excel.
But then some users were complaining that the SmartView reports were difficult to email.
The file size was often too large, or they had to remove the formula before they could email, or they weren't sure users were using the latest version of the packs they had emailed out.
So I thought what I need to do is to find a way of removing the need for SmartView in the Excel reports.
Let's have a look now at how MerlinXL can build Excel reports without the need for SmartView. As before, we start with a blank worksheet, and I'll add in some member labels to form the column headers, and some account labels to form the row headers, and some special keywords to determine where the descriptions will go. Then we select the Refresh button in the MerlinXL ribbon, and the report is populated with data directly from HFM. Now when we look at the contents of a cell, we can see there's no SmartView formula, just the data. Again, I'll just paste in some formatting, as before, and switch the report out of design mode. The dynamic capabilities such as drill down are still available on the report. And we still have the right-click functionality to drill across any dimension. And we can now produce a report that drills down to the base members of every dimension for the selected cell. For HFM administrators in particular, this is a very useful report to see all the data that has been loaded against a particular cell.
Hi. It was around this time in 2006 that I recruited a couple of consultants to come and work for me. I would love to come and work for you. Steve Knowles, now at Moscow, was one of them. I have a lot of Oracle and systems experience. Together we were able to convert the report wizard into a web-based solution. However, instead of displaying the web reports in a browser, we displayed the data in Excel.
Let's have a look at how the report wizard distributes the centrally maintained Excel reports over the intranet or internet. Selecting the report wizard button, we can now see there are several options available under the report wizard. There's the report library. These are the centrally maintained Excel reports that have been uploaded by the wizard managers and available to anybody who has access. The workspace documents. These are the workspace web grids that are downloaded and converted into MerlinXL reports. The system reports, for example, a user can download the metadata into Excel, or they can see a list of running tasks or process management information. The report builder we'll have a look at later allows the user to build reports based on the templates or cherry pick from the metadata. The data table allows a dump of data based on certain criteria to Excel, and the ad hoc adds a template to facilitate the starting point for an ad hoc report. If we go ahead now and look at the report library, the report library allows the wizard managers or administrators to group the reports into various folders depending on their function of the report. We'll select the income statement summary, which is the report we've been looking at in the previous demos. We'll select the POV that we want to run the report for. Notice that all the other dimensions in the application have been suppressed for this report, so the user can only choose from these 4 dimensions. So here we see the report that's been downloaded over HTTP and populated with the live data for the point of view selected when we run the report. All the dynamic functionality is still available, like double-click to drill down. Let's have a look at a workbook type report now. This workbook report has been set up by the wizard manager so that the users can only select the period and year. This workbook consisted of just 3 sheets, one for each of the entities PLC, Europe and USA. Notice that on the right we have a text box that's been populated with formatted cell text. This is text that has been stored against this point of view in HFM as cell text, because MerlinXL has the ability to store formatted text and display it in a text box. The formatting stored against the Europe entity is different. If we wanted to modify the cell text, assuming we had the access rights to do so, we simply edit the text box. and then select the Submit Cell Text button to upload the new cell text. The user is given the option of whether they want to store the formatting or not with the cell text commentary. And if we scroll down, we can see that HFM cell text can also be displayed in an Excel text box.
Why did you build your own Excel reporting tool?
The users asked me to. They were having trouble building all the cell formulas.
You should be using standard HFM functionality.
I think the users really like my report wizard.
Why should we use your wizard? What's wrong with HFM reports?
Nothing, it's just everyone agrees it saves time and adds value by enhancing the functionality.
I don't want to use Excel for our financial consolidations.
But Excel is only the interface on HFM.
I want to use only HFM functionality, that's all.
I think you should compare the functionality, then let the users choose.
I don't want to use third-party tools.
But they fill a functionality gap.
Okay. Prove to me the report wizard is indispensable.
Okay, I will. Thank you. I need to think of some functionality that users can't do without. Is there any more reporting functionality you would like?
Well, you could build something for intercompany reporting. It can't be that difficult, can it?
Why, what are the problems with the standard intercompany reports?
The reports can be quite long and difficult to read. The intercompany matching process can take quite a long time.
Then I will build an intercompany matching tool for you, and I will call it the Intercompany Wizard.
Okay. Merlin.
So let's have a look now at the MerlinXL Intercompany Wizard. There are 4 options with the Intercompany Wizard. We can create a new report where we enter the settings, or we can create a report from the library where the settings have been preset by the wizard managers. We can refresh an existing report, or we can modify the intercompany groupings, where intercompany groupings allows you to treat multiple entities as one for matching purposes. So we're going to select all the intercompany mismatch reports that have been linked to the income statement, and then we'll set the POV that we want to run this report for. Let's have a look at some of the options we can choose. We can select what type of intercompany groupings we want. Intercompany groupings is where we can treat multiple entities as one for matching purposes. So if we wanted to treat all the entities in France as one single entity and only see the net effect of all the entities in France, then we could choose custom groupings. We can decide whether we want to see comments that people have written against each matching, or whether we want to see the information in a pivot table. We can choose the number formatting, and we can also choose whether we want to download and match the local currency data and translate it on the fly, which means that the data doesn't have to be translated or consolidated before we run the intercompany report, or we can use the translated data. But of course that means the data does have to have been consolidated in HFM first before we run the report. So this is the intercompany matching report. The key thing to notice is that the mismatches are sorted in descending order of absolute mismatch. Hopefully you can see that we've got the source entity, the match entity, and so the source entity has with the match, and the match entity has with the source, and then we see the net being the mismatch. Starting with the largest first, going down. Notice too on the right we've got some descriptions that we've written against these mismatches. As we scroll down the worksheet, we can see that the mismatches get smaller and smaller until at the bottom we see all the matched items. If we look at these two rows, we can see that we have a mismatch contra, where one entity, 200T, has posted one side of the transaction to entity 2501 and the other side of the transaction to entity 2502, resulting in a mismatch. And the advantage of sorting the mismatches in descending order of absolute mismatch is that these types of errors are thrown together. And because they have a net effect of 0 on the group mismatch, we can mark these off as being a contra, give a reason, and then we can filter them out later so they're hidden from the report. If we want to update a comment, we simply overtype the cell. When we right-click on the cell, we can see all the previous comments that have been added, so the conversation that's been going on that particular cell, and we can choose the option to save these comments and upload them to the system so that when anybody runs this report again, they will see the comments against this particular mismatch. If we right-click on a data cell, we get a breakdown of the numbers that make up the balance. Notice too that we also see the local currency amount and the exchange rate that was used to translate to the target currency. Let's look now at refreshing this intercompany report. If any of the mismatches have changed, a little cell text pops up to say what the number was before the refresh. We'll go and have a look at the pivot table report now. The pivot table report is the same intercompany data but displayed in a pivot table, which allows for greater flexibility of slicing and dicing of the data. For example, if we just wanted to run a report on a selection of entities, the pivot table allows us to do it. So that is a very quick run through of the MerlinXL Intercompany Wizard.
I hear you have developed a popular Excel-based reporting tool for HFM.
Yes, I have.
I'd like to include MerlinXL as part of the Amask HFM tools.
Really, that sounds interesting.
I think it is the perfect fit with Amask.
I hope so.
Trust me.
So that's MerlinXL.
That looks very good.
Do you have any questions?
Does it help with journals? We have a big problem with journals.
No, I'm afraid not.
That's a shame.
I really don't feel well.
Should I call an ambulance?
I'm going to be sick.
We need to keep you here for a couple of weeks.
I've been here for a week. It's given me time to think about how to improve on the HFM journals. I've had nothing else to do all week. I will start on the Journal Wizard as soon as I leave.
Hi, how are you?
Let's look now at the MerlinXL Journal Wizard. The Journal Wizard has 4 basic reports: listing journals, managing journals, a table of journal lines, and creating a new journal. We're going to look at listing the journals. Having selected the point of view that we want to list the journals for, we select OK. and we get a list of all the journals posted to that point of view rolling up to the selected entity. We get all the information we need: the label, description, the entity it applies to, the status, and the date it was last actioned. And because this list is in Excel, we can use the standard Excel functionality such as filtering to find the journal that we want. We can filter by date, or filter by entity, and when we found the journal we want, we simply double click and the journal is downloaded to Excel. If we want to edit the journal, for example change the entity, simply double click in the entity column and choose a new entity that will either apply to the whole journal or just to this row. And if you want to change something like the account and you know the label, just overtype it. If the member label is correct, the description will appear alongside. But if you type in an incorrect member label, you'll receive an error message telling you that the member label is invalid or you don't have access to that member label. We'll just change it back to its original value and hide the unused dimensions. If we expand the data columns, we can see there's a debit and credit column as well as the single local amount column. There's also base data and adjustments column to tell us how much is in the cell. If we change back to the original entity, we can see the adjustments column is full of data because there's already a journal posted to this entity. And we can see in the total column what the predicted value will be if the journal were to be posted by adding what the current local amount is to the existing adjustments column. So for example, if I were to adjust the local amount to 20,000, the total column is telling us that if we post the journal, the value of this cell will display 34,680, which is the existing 14,680 in the cell already, plus the journal we're about to post of 20,000. And similarly, if we were to change the local amount to minus 20,000, the total column changes to reflect the new predicted value of that cell if the journal were to be posted. In the translated column, we can see what the value of the local amount would be in the target currency, which in this case is GBP for a US dollar entity. If we knew that we wanted this particular line to display 10,000 in GBP, we enter it into the translated column, and the local amount required to give us the 10,000 in the translated column is added to the local amount column. And we could do the same with the total column. If we wanted the value of the cell after the journal has been posted to display 35,000, then we enter that into the total column cell. And again, the local amount required to give us our target total is calculated and added to the local amount column. If we now want to post this journal and move its status from approved to posted, we can select the Upload and Posted option. And this journal has now been uploaded and posted to HFM. Another useful feature is the ability to copy a journal from one period to another. I'll choose the period to copy the journal to, and a new copy of this journal has been created and ready to be loaded into the new period. And this journal will just submit. If we want to create a completely new journal, we select the Journal Wizard New option and choose the entity we want to create the journal for. We enter a journal label and description, and choose whether we want to create a single period or multi-period journal. Here I've created a multi-period journal that will allow me to post to all the open periods in the year. After entering the account member label, I fill in the amounts I want to post to each period. And give this journal line a comment. And I'll upload this multi-period journal as approved. And when I do so, a journal will be created in each period with the same set of rows and description and label. So here we can see that this single row multi-period journal has been submitted to all the open periods in the year.
Thanks for watching the story of MerlinXL. I hope you found it interesting and informative. I hope to see you at the user group or at my table in the breakout area. Bye bye.